Amazing. Okay, hello everyone. It's so nice to see you all, some partially virtually and some here in person with us in GC 243. I just want to begin by saying that I am thrilled to welcome you all to the reboot of our SGA Women in Empowerment series. So this series was created last year by myself and the previous SGA president, Alexandra Valdez, and I am honestly really happy we're able to continue this series. So thank you all again for being here. Little round of applause for that. Bring the energy up, just woo, love it. So this Women Empowerment series focuses around different topics and conversations. In the past, we've had different topics ranging from science, business, politics, and much, much more. And our goal of this series is really just to showcase women all over the country, specifically, of course, our very own FIU Panthers and FIU alumni, and to highlight their courageous path to success while giving the opportunity to students to engage, create new relationships, and enhance their professional development. So I personally could not have thought of a better group of women to kick off this series once again. So let's give a round of applause to our beautiful panel. So today's series is called, this segment, I apologize, is called Women Are Leadership in Action. So this session will be featuring the following three panelists. First, we have Dr. Brenny Depar Garcia, Associate Vice President for Student Health and Wellness. We also have Dr. Elizabeth Behar, Senior Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs. And last but certainly not least, we have the one and only Elpanye E.K. Hudson, the Senior Vice President for Human Resources and the Vice Provost for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So now I'm going to take a moment and tell you a bit more about our amazing panelists. So first, like I mentioned, we have E.K. Hudson, who is the Vice Provost of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and the Senior Vice President for the Division of Human Resources. As the Vice Provost of DEI, EK ensures that FIU's dedication to diversity, equity, and inclusion is reflected in the university's research, educational, and public engagement efforts. In 2020, President Mark B. Rosenberg appointed EK to oversee the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. As such, she helps FIU achieve excellence and strengthens commitment to the university's diverse community, both on and off campus. EK came to FIU in 2010 as Assistant Vice President for Human Resources, and she was named Interim Vice President of Human Resources in 2018 and permanently appointed Senior Vice President in 2019. In that role, she oversees the full complement of HR disciplines. This includes employee and labor relations, employee engagement initiatives, and the Office of Civil Rights Compliance and Accessibility. In 2020, EK led FIU's anti-racism efforts via the Equity Action Initiative in the wake of the killing of George Floyd and other incidents of racial injustice. With more than 28 years of experience in the HR field, EK serves as a board member for the Florida chapter of the College and University Professional Association. She's the past chair for the College and University HR Executives. She serves as an executive board member to lead urban community growth with the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce and recently joined the Board of Opportunities Industrialization Centers of South Florida. EK grew up in Miami's Liberty City neighborhood and graduated from Miami Northwestern Senior High School. Woo! She holds a bachelor's and master's degree from Florida A&M University. She and her husband, Wilson G. Hudson, have 3 daughters, 2 of them FIU graduate students, and 3 grandchildren. So let's give her a round of applause for her. Next up, we have Dr. Elizabeth Behar, who currently serves as the Senior Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs here at FIU. Dr. Behar previously held the positions of Vice Provost for Academic Affairs and Vice Provost for Academic Planning and Accountability. In her roles as the first Vice Provost for Academic Planning and Accountability for FIU, she was responsible for establishing the institutional assessment and evaluation plans and policies that currently serve the university's practice of continuous improvement and developing a culture of evidence-based decision-making. In addition to teaching in the public schools, Dr. Behar has served as an academic policy analyst for the Massachusetts Board of Higher Education. Dr. Behar's research includes contributions to an encyclopedia on women in higher education and as principal investigator for a funded grant studying minority-serving institutions' models of success. She's a member of the board of Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges, serves on the Florida Board of Governors Council of Academic Vice Presidents Work Group on Program Coordination, and is an advisory board member to Excelencia in Education, an organization that aims to accelerate higher education success for Hispanics. She received a PhD in Higher Education Administration from Boston College, MS in International and Intercultural Development Education from FIU, and a BA in Psychology and Elementary Education from the University of Miami. So let's give it up for Dr. Behar, everyone. And certainly, last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Brenny Depar Garcia. Dr. Depar Garcia is the Associate Vice President for Student Health and Wellness for FIU. And in this role, Dr. Garcia provides leadership over key areas of Dean of Students, Counseling and Psychological Services, Health Promotion Services, Victim Empowerment Program, and Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution. She works across academic and student affairs and collaboratively with units across campus to support the university's strategic goals related to building and supporting a culture of healthy living, promoting mental health initiatives across the university, and representing the university at the state level on such matters. An Honors College alumna, Dr. Garcia earned a BA in Political Science from FIU in 2005 and also earns an MS in Higher Education with a specialty in Leadership Management in 2007 and an EDD in Higher Education with a research concentration in crisis leadership in 2015. Dr. Garcia also holds a certificate in crisis leadership in higher education from the Harvard Kennedy School Executive Education Program. So let's give it up for Dr. Garcia, everyone. So enough, I know you've heard a lot of me speaking today, and I know you're probably not here for me. I know you probably want to hear more from this amazing panelist. So that leads us to our next few questions for our panelists before we open the floor to our audience members. So to begin, I know you all heard those amazing bios. So how did they get here? So I wanted to know, to the panelists, whichever who wants to begin, tell us how you kind of started in your field, what kind of inspired you to be here today, the challenges that you may have faced, your successes, if any of you want to begin. That was kind of a broader question, so.
I want to, if it's okay, I'll rephrase a little bit.
Yes, of course.
One of the questions talked about failure. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So I want to talk about an experience, because it's a few of us, so we're going to, and I don't know how many people are watching virtually.
Yeah, we do have
Thank you for having us. But I'm going to talk a little bit about an instance of failure that happened and how we overcame it. So kind of it'll interweave how we got here today. I graduated high school way, like almost 40 years ago, really, okay. And at that time, went directly into the University of Miami, that other school over there. And I was living with my grandparents. So I grew up with my grandparents there in Liberty City. And my middle and high school years were with them. I graduated high school, so my parents were divorced, so my grandfather was my father figure in my home. And after 2.5 years there, it was 5 semesters in, it was December, I recall, of that year, and he passed away abruptly. And I was devastated. And there were 4 children in my home, but I was the one that was living with my grandparents. So it impacted me differently. So I dropped out of school. So I'm a college dropout. I want you all to know that. So we're going to talk about how you overcome, right? College dropout. So then after about 2 or 3 months, kind of getting myself together, I went and got a job. I got into the job market. And back then, the minimum wage was $3.15, okay? $3.15. So I got a job paying $8. So I was the stuff, okay? I was making bank in 1982, 83, okay? And so I started making bank and making bills, okay? And creating debt. And for about 3 years I did that. And my sister said, listen, I'm going to go and get my doctorate of pharmacy degree, and I want you to go back to school. This is how I went from UM to Florida A&M University. And I followed her, with all my debt, this much debt on my head. I followed her to Tallahassee, and I made the decision because what happened while I was working in this position, what I thought was money was not, right? But I'm working in this position. Every instance of opportunity for promotion, for training, for attending a conference, for an increase was met with, oh, but you don't have a degree. So I'm saying this to you, especially as your students. Do not leave this university without at least 2 degrees. Don't do it, okay? And that was what I was met with. So it was that motivation coupled with her invitation that I should go ahead and finish my work. So I went to Tallahassee, earned my bachelor's degree in economics, got my master's in public administration, and I did the master's kind of almost by accident because my husband hadn't finished school and I was waiting for him to finish. So I said, well, I might as well get the master's while I'm here. And it was because of her prompting and that negative experience, and I call it failure, dropping out of school. That's what I'm calling failure. But life happens and circumstances happen. And so, when you fall down, that's okay. People trip, but you get back up. And so if I would leave you with anything today, it is don't stay there wherever there is. Get up, get the provisions that are made for you, and make something happen. So that was an experience that I had that brought me to this place.
So let me take a different tact, but thank you for your transparency and for your courage and your daring to be great and have those conversations. I think it's really hard and important for us to talk about the challenges. You asked a question that wasn't right. This is not scripted again. And Alex opened with a question that I didn't see as a potential question.
Sorry, just came
and
out.
I'm going to tell you, that show that's on, where the girl does music in her head. What's the name of that show? Extraordinary Playlist. So, yeah, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. So you were asking the question, and the Beatles, The Long and Winding Road is actually playing in my head as she was asking the question. You guys who are younger can Google the Beatles and that song in particular, right? But but I say that because I'm sitting here in where I am today, and there was not a vision board. There was not a what are your 3-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals. Oh, I want to be an assistant vice president. Oh, I want to be a vice provost. None of that existed for me. It exists for many people, and I am amazed by that. I am amazed by people's clarity. But what I do have and what I continue to have is determination, resilience, and that long and winding road. The compass bearing was always on my own personal and professional integrity and my fundamental belief that education makes people better. And education makes the world a better place, which is what drives me. And that helps me get through the day-to-day, because sometimes the day-to-day are issues that we have to kind of grind through and get through on the other side. So I wanted to share that. The other thing I wanted to share is we all fail. So if someone ever tells you they don't fail, the conversation is a failure. That would be ironic, and probably you need to put a big question mark internally on that. Everybody fails. The issue is, for me, I might fail multiple times in a day, but it's not an epic fail. It's let me understand my surroundings, let me understand who I am, let me understand the entire context around the situation, and redirect. So I'm open to constructive criticism. I'm open to hearing the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, and redirecting myself on a pretty regular basis so those failures are smaller missteps along the way. Right? What we don't want to do is kind of double down and triple down on failure and be so myopic in our own understanding and in our own vision that you're just going to go down that rabbit hole all the way down. But we all misdirect. And as long as we're open to hearing our environment and to learning, there is nothing that we can't be resilient from.
Thank you, Dr. Brenny. Can you hear me? Yes? Yes. So similarly, I'll take a different path and then connect to the failure component at the end. So my journey to FIU, I think, could be summarized in adopted privilege. And by that, I mean how the power of education and the power of network get you to where you are. I came from a very, similar to EK, I came from a very low-income family in Miami. We were just above the poverty line. My parents worked 2 and 3 jobs my whole life. I was raised by my grandparents. I came to FIU because I couldn't afford the schools that I wanted to, and I knew that my parents sacrificed a lot to put me through private school my whole life, and I couldn't, in good conscience, ask them to pay for my college education. I came to FIU for free, as some of you, are on scholarship, so I made that decision for myself. As I went through my journey, I was very involved on campus. I made great friends. I had amazing experiences through my involvement. I traveled, America through different e-board positions. And in my senior year, I had odd jobs all through college. I worked at a flower shop. I worked at a hardware store, right? I had 0 professional experience to put on a resume. And that's when the power of network started to come in to tie into the power of education. I was, rounding out my senior year. A sorority sister said, "Hey, I'm leaving the president's office. They need a student assistant. Do you want to apply?" And I was like, I'll take anything at this point. I just need something on my resume before I walk out this graduation stage, right? I got the job really not knowing anything. And I was very lucky that the team really took a liking to me and really mentored me and coached me that final year, that I was able to it opened doors, a little bit of dumb luck, but I worked very hard. And through that continued, as I kept through the winding road of different positions in the president's office, my network grew and grew. I finished my master's degree, I finished my doctoral degree, and again, the winding road just kept, even though I tried to veer out of FIU, they kept bringing me back. And through that, I really got this incredible privilege to not only be an alum 3 times over of this university. I was able to, be an AVP in my 30s, right? That's not common. I was able to have these incredible life experiences and continue to travel. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be living in Washington, D.C. for a year, opening our campus there. Never in a million years did I think that I would be traveling to China to celebrate our 10-year anniversary and work alongside President Rosenberg and President Yi at the time. FIU, your education here, plus the people you meet, plus the experiences that you're going to be creating combined really do give all of us this incredible privilege that a lot of people don't get, but we need to take advantage of it, right? So I encourage all of you to continue to ask questions and challenge the system and try to understand how much you can actually take advantage of. One piece of my story is that I tell a lot of incoming students is I didn't know what FERPA was until my senior year. Nobody told me. I had no counselors to tell me. Again, coming low income, my parents never went to college. I was the first person of all my cousins, even though I was the youngest, to go to school. Didn't know. I was Pell eligible. When I found out that I was eligible for $3,000 a semester, I was real upset that I lost all that money for 4 years, right? And there's a lot of students, it could be FERPA, it could be academic advising, it could be, student involvement. Ask how much FIU can give you, because it's a lot. And if you don't actually seek out the services that all of you pay for, whether it's through scholarships or out of pocket, right, you're gonna lose out on a lot, And tying it, into the failure, I had read an article, and I wish I could remember the gentleman's name, because this is not my quote, but FAIL stands for first attempt in learning, right? So failure is okay. we fail every day, multiple times a day. People see us in our, lovely positions and like we have it all together. We don't. We have learned over the years to get better and to, understand how to navigate the chaos. But when you come across that failure, one, take accountability. Okay, if you have, whether it's a supervisor, a mentor, just acknowledge that you messed up. It's okay. But two, come with a solution. Don't say I failed and then just walk away, right? And then the project or the initiative or your team is kind of left hanging, right? Take that extra step. And then, finally ask for help. Sometimes you don't have a solution, and you're just kind of like stuck there. But ask for help. Go to your supervisor, your mentor, your teammates. Hey, I messed up. This happened. Do you guys have any ideas on how to fix the problem together, right? So accountability and going that extra step really is how you can turn failure into an opportunity and take advantage of that.
Thank you so. Oh, can you all hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you so much to all of you for kind of sharing a little bit, a piece of your story, and at least speaking on like my behalf. It's kind of comforting to know that like seeing such amazing women like you all, knowing that you all went through your challenges and to this day you still face those and you're able to overcome it. It's kind of comforting to know that it's okay to fail. It's okay to trip, and to always keep your, eye on the prize and always know that you're able to overcome those things. And on that same note, I know you all are all inspirations to me at least, and I know many other women as well. And my next question for you all, being a woman yourself, what were some of the challenges when you started your career being a woman in your fields that you think that you faced?
Okay, takes a second. I'm going to kind of fast forward from the beginning of my career to kind of middle to upper management, because I very quickly found myself in a place where I was the only one looking at my watch, not because I was less dedicated to the university or to my roles and responsibilities, but because it is frowned upon to leave your children at school and not pick them up. Right? I say that in jest, but I was very quickly around a table of empty nesters, of older administrators who had already kind of been there and done that. And I was worried about, there's a soccer tournament, and the president's going to call an emergency meeting, and we're going to have, they want to have a special meeting on Saturday to discuss this very important topic, and I'm supposed to be in Orlando because my daughter's playing competitive soccer. And how to manage those things. And when I looked around, there wasn't a cadre of other women at my level having those same issues. So I actively sought out other people outside of the organization, outside of my immediate inner circle, to touch base and say, okay, are these issues that other people are facing? And the more that we talked about it, the more that I engaged with some other colleagues, they were experiencing similar issues. And for me, what worked for me was a level of openness and transparency that I think makes some people very at ease, and others a little bit more uncomfortable. But I was very comfortable taking a meeting long before COVID, long before Zoom, but I was very comfortable taking a meeting on the phone and very open about, I'm on the soccer field. I'm on the sideline. I'll be there in an hour. And when everybody went to bed at 11 o'clock at night, I was plugged in until 3 o'clock in the morning. The time is going to come from somewhere, right? So it was about being able to adjust and being able to manage expectations, which I was able to do at least with my multiple immediate supervisors since 2007. At some level, they were very comfortable knowing Elizabeth, she'll take care of it. She can't take care of it on my clock, but she'll take care of it on the university's clock and well within time or reason. But at some level, at 6 o'clock, if your child is in daycare, you need to leave. And I was the only one with children in daycare.
Thank you, Dr. Behar. And I'm going to look this way because if I look at you, I'm going to get emotional. So as a new mom, I spent the first 14 years of my career in the office of the president. I worked for President Medique for 5 years and then President Rosenberg for 9. So I've spent the last 2 under Dr. Behar's wonderful leadership. I got to a point in my life where I didn't think I was going to have children. By the grace of God, I had my beautiful daughter, Olivia. And it is because of her walking the walk and talking the talk that she just shared that I have been able to continue feeling confident in my position and also being a great mom. So I want to publicly thank you because I haven't done that. It's when you all grow, whether you're a male, a female, non-binary, and you have your families, and you understand those challenges of like the tug and pull and like you want to be a great spouse, you want to be a great parent, you want to be a great supervisor, you want to be a great friend, like it's impossible, right? You cannot be all things to all people all the time. It can't happen. So we have an alum, her name is Luli Balipoji. She wrote a book called Balance is Bullshit. And basically the book, it's a short read, but it basically talks about like almost like these equations, right? So on day 1, you might be a great student and a great friend, but you're gonna be a really crappy daughter or son, right? On day 2, you might be a really great athlete and the team that you're participating in, and school might take a back burner because, your practice ran late, right? So like if you think about a week, a month, a year, are your buckets filling up equally, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, then yes, balance does exist. But balance doesn't exist day to day. It just doesn't. So I encourage all of you to like not necessarily overwhelm yourselves in those moments like, oh my God, back to failure, right? Like I'm failing, like this is just a terrible day. Take a step back, practice the power of pause, and really analyze like, overall, how am I doing? Am I doing well? Okay, then that's good enough, right? But going back to your initial question, Alex, for me, what I wasn't ready for that I experienced starting off my career, and again, I'm gonna skip over my first few positions, really were the isms, right? Ageism, sexism. I was not ready for that. I grew up, thank God, in a very like open, loving household, right? Like my uncle was disabled, my godparents were Black, like my mom's olive best friends were in the LGBT community. Like I grew up in this like little fantasy land bubble and like everything was hunky-dory and perfect, right? And then you come to the real world and you're like, oh my God, these things exist. Like it's not just on TV, like this is real life. And I had a really hard time with that because really the way I was raised, just nobody prepared me for that. And I didn't have those mentors early on to coach me through those issues. So, being treated like, usually, and still to an extent, right? I was usually the youngest person in the room, right? And when you work in the president's office at the executive level, like that, you're talking like decades difference, right? Finding your voice through those issues when you have people of power and so much more experience and these fancy titles and you're just kind of like, can I say something? I don't know. People treating you, I've had bosses, treat me like the secretary. We've had guests treat you just like, oh, go get me coffee because that's all you're good for, right? And those challenges as a young 20-something impressionable young woman, you're like, is this really what work is like? Like, is that everything, right? Because no man was ever asked to go get coffee. It was only the woman in the room that was asked to get coffee, right? So all those isms combined throughout your early career, you're just like, wow. Along the way, I found my people, right, to help support me and navigate those issues and encourage me to find my voice. But it could be tough. It could be really tough at the beginning. So, as you grow as a student, professionally, like really find your advocates to help you find a seat at the table, find your voice, to be able to, because you all have value, right? And I think that we can lose that along the way.
Good stuff, good stuff. You all should celebrate what they just shared with you. Come on, that's
Yes.
good stuff. And I'll just add, and the central theme, one of the central themes is that parenthood piece, right? And so by my choice, I live in Delray Beach, so my commute is 2 hours door to door. And prior to even coming here, I've always worked in Miami since I graduated college, and I would take the Tri-Rail with my baby's, what do you call that thing that they carry? Yeah, the baby carrier. And my mom would meet me on the platform of the Tri-Rail, and so we're doing an exchange, coming and going. And then you get to work and you have to show up. Now you're showing up after you've, fed the baby and dropped them off and whatever you've had to do to get there. And you're coming into a place and space and you're giving 1,000% because that's who you are, not because someone's imposed it on you, but that's who you are. And I had one of my leaders, and I'm not going to say which employer, but regardless to all that we were doing and giving as professionals, would make you feel, and happened to be a male, would make you feel that it was never enough, right? And so you have to have that self-assurance and self-awareness to know, and I think you said it earlier, Dr. Behar, priorities, right? At the end of the day, my child, my family is my priority, and I'm going to give, I'm going to bring all that I'm, going to bring here to this organization, and it should be valued at every level because the things that are being said to me weren't being said to my male counterparts. I worked in law enforcement, a highly male-dominated industry when I was there, and so working with leadership that would, if after I've given all, they're watching the clock at 6 o'clock, why are you leaving early? And one day was one day too many, and I had to turn around and say, when you leave here, the meal that's placed on the table is provided for you. When I leave here, I'm providing that meal on the table, right? And so it was almost like managing up and speaking truth to power with all the respect that's due, but I am producing beyond my counterparts on a daily basis. And sometimes, it's not about being rude, it's about being clear, right, about who you are, what you're bringing, what your value is. Not only you know it, but engaging those others that they would know it. So the same situations, and again, my career is probably twice the years of my colleagues here.
No.
So as I'm looking,
But thank you.
as I look over, over the like taking a panoramic view, just all of those instances, I was told by one of my supervisors that I'm 3 times cursed. You're black, you're female, and you're left-handed. What is that to say to somebody? What is that to say to somebody, right? And so just navigating all of that, but having the resilience, right? Because nobody's going to define me but me. Okay, and so we remind ourselves that I am the one that's going to chart this course. I am the CEO of my life. I am the one that's going to make the determinations. And guess what? At the end of the day, if this place is not working for me, then I've got to find the place that does. Really super quickly, I was in an employment situation with an individual who was the owner of the building, a very small owner of the business, a very small company. And I had 1.5 days of employment in this place. That's how toxic it was. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was very young. It was early, and it was in that window of time when I was finding my way. And I started there as the office manager in this space. And I didn't know that I was expected to make the coffee. I just didn't know that. And so when they came in, they said, "Where's the coffee?" And it was very, very rude, very harsh. And I said, well, I don't know the coffee is. I didn't know I was supposed to make the coffee. So we got that cleared up. And throughout the day, just different things were hurled, truly hurled at me. Why did you answer the phone that way? Why didn't you, don't speak to that person? It was odd. And so for some reason, I came back on day 2. But on day 2, when they came in, they said, "Why didn't you take out the trash?" So now I'm scratching my head. None of that was in the job description, right? around 11 o'clock, and I'll be able to tell you, the reason I'm telling you the exact time of day, 11 o'clock, I was asked to make photocopies. I hadn't been asked to make photocopies on the day before. So on that day, 11 o'clock, I go to make these photocopies. And when I get into the photocopy room, it's as if that's the copy machine and there's a wall right in front of it. The wall was filled with naked women. And that was the moment that I said, no, this is not the place for me, right? Didn't have an employer to go to, but I couldn't remain in those conditions. And so after a day and a half, I quit that job. So my point is, that's a culture. That was that organization's culture, and it worked for them. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for my internal compass. It didn't work for my values. And so I made a decision, right, to separate myself from that and create the space that I wanted to be in. So those are some of the challenges that we've had as women to be where we are. But we've made some decisions that had to work for us, and no one's going to dictate our path for us but us.
Can I jump in?
Of course.
I want to add a couple of things. One of the reasons that we focus on internships, on experiential learning opportunities, right, and on really getting out there and experiencing the world, right, with the safety blanket and within the safety blanket that is FIU for all our students, is because the more you have that social capital and that exposure to different cultures and climates that exist out there, the more informed and the more educated a decision that you're going to be able to make longer term. And you're going to be able to recognize it long before it's too late, right? As EK said, she saw it. She didn't have a plan B, but she was like, this is not for me. I know plenty of people who are working today in places where the culture doesn't fit with their inner core and their integrity, and they're stuck because they have a mortgage to pay, because they have food to put on the table, right? And those are situations that we help navigate people out of, but we don't want you to have to go through that. So the more opportunities that you avail yourself of, whether through alternative break assignments, through leadership assignments, right, through short-term internships, the more exposure you get out there, the better off that you're going to be able to be to like really have like your radar on and say, this is for me, this is not for me. So I wanted to kind of put that on the table because EK touched upon it. I don't know when Alex is going to turn off my mic. The other...
I would never.
Never say never. That's one. Two, EK also touched on something, and it's really hard for us. And this is not about it's me against the world. I am going to say, I was counting in my head, I've had 5 or 6 supervisors, right, at FIU. Only one female. All my other supervisors, direct reports, have been male. And I have managed up accordingly. I think it is some luck, but also working really hard at managing those relationships, at ensuring that there can be some level of open communication, trust, and also being really good at your craft, being really good at your job, right? So the first time I was invited to the table, I listened more than I spoke, right? And I became a resource to my supervisor after the fact, suggesting some things. So the next time at the table, he actually said, you speak up. You've earned your right at the table. Do it. Own your space. And so that's really important. And to the detractors, there's always detractors. Always. Hunger Games, Game of Thrones, it doesn't matter. There's always detractors. First of all, don't give them the importance that they should not have in your life. Put 2, 3 names in your back pocket on a piece of paper, and those are the only people's opinions who really should matter to you. The rest is chatter. The rest is noise. And that's really, really important because, particularly for women, when there are limited seats at the table, women, and it is one of the reasons, right, getting to maybe one of your next questions, why do you do this? Have you ever supported other women? I support all my direct reports and indirect reports, and right? I support the next generation coming forward, but I recognize that as a woman, I have a unique perspective that 5 of my other 6 supervisors didn't have, and we were able to navigate that together. So if I can make it a little bit easier along the way, I do. But I support all my employees moving forward and really trying to think through what opportunities and options can be. And I'm looking at this group right here, right? Both of you, but yeah, I'm shifting in my chair. And I think it's really important that we recognize that you should, you don't have to, you really should, as you're going along, paying it forward. And those of you who are in leadership roles, because you're not a leader when you're the CEO. You're a leader when you're an assistant program manager, a program director, right? And people look up to you and respect you. It's not about your take-home salary or power. That's just a construct, right? We're all public servants of this institution. And so that's the most critical piece, is that you're humble enough to recognize that this rising tide will raise all the ships of the university, and we're a collective entity.
Thank you so much to all of you for really opening up and kind of sharing like those pieces and those key advice that I know I'm gonna take away personally, and I mean it when I say like I take those to heart. And I got the chills, not only because I'm cold in here, but also because of what you all like really had to say. And I know that I have like my own personal questions, because I really try to take advantage of my time with you women when I'm able to. But I do want to take this time to open the floor if anyone does have a question to ask. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I do have a question. As a man and I believe.
Wait, Renly, I'm sorry. Do you mind coming up and speaking into the microphone? Or if, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, of course.
So I do have a question. Like from what I see around, like places I've been going, I see that a lot of females could be as much as greater leaders than men. So I had a question. I have a question. I know it's 2021, and I know women. Sorry, my breathing is bad. I know women could lead as much as a man, but like for some guys who will still believe that women can't do the assignment that they are assigned to. So, what would you wonderful leaders be able to say about that? Like, how would you inspire the future generation of females to believe that they could break barriers that guys think that they can't break? My breathing is bad.
What would we say to men who believe that women can't lead, and we know that we can? I'm just going to borrow from Dr. Behar. I wouldn't give that energy, because we see it. We see it often. We see it. And so when I think about experiences, you meet people where they are, and then you leave them there. If they don't want to get elevated, right, then you leave them there. I mean, I really try very hard, probably because of my HR role and wanting to model behavior, to be diplomatic and clear, and there'll be people that will never see me as peers. They just won't, right? But that can't diminish the shine. That can't diminish my contributions, and because of my own compass for, my internal compass for my own standards, I'm not going to withhold from that person. I'm just not going to do that. I'll continue to try to penetrate the personality, the persona, but I'm not going to give energy to, certainly in a way that's going to diminish myself. I'm just going to express as I can with them and leave them there. But it exists, and I don't know, how we can change that except to model behavior, right, and bring them along and not ostracize them, because if anything else, it's a diversity of thought, right? So you have to respect that position is what I can say.
The one thing that I agree with you, you can't focus on the negativity, but the one thing I will add, that it's not necessarily a direct answer to your question, but the challenge is the multi-generational workforce makes it harder, right? So men colleagues in their 70s, you need to approach them very differently on average than male colleagues in their 30s, right? Because society has changed, norms have changed, expectations have changed. So sometimes, not always, right? I know I shouldn't make generalities, but on average, right, you have to work a little harder for those older generations because they were raised a certain way, and that's not their fault, right? But they come into the workforce, nobody's really corrected them for 10, 20 decades, 2 decades, 3 decades, and now right? People have expectations, and things have changed, and if nobody's ever spoken up to them, right, not just women, but other colleagues in general, doesn't matter what their gender is, right, should speak up to be like, that's not okay anymore, and this is why, and we all need to be supportive because everyone can contribute, right? It's about someone's intellectual capacity. Can they have like a positive impact, not about, male, female, non-binary, whatever gender you identify as, right? And I think that takes work. Not everybody wants to put in the work, but you have to be committed to having those tough conversations.
Thank you. And thank you for your question, Renly. Does anyone else have any more questions? Yes. Would you like to come up? Wait, can we use the
webcast? Oh, you make me feel important. So I noticed when Alex was reading your bio and like there was kind of some similarities between us. I'm also an honors college student, also a part of sorority on campus. I wanted to ask specifically, like, is there something that being an honors college student here at FIU helped contribute to your success now, your leadership qualities, positions, anything that you can take away from that, or even so much as a piece of advice that you can give to your younger self before this?
Yeah, I mean, great question, thank you. I learned a lot from all my experiences, specifically honors college, and they're even like so much better now. Like y'all are getting a way better experience than even I got, and I got a pretty good one. But yeah, I think that with the honors college, because the way the curriculum is structured really makes you think outside, right? It's like very philosophically based. It challenges your thinking. And I think that's in a very safe environment, and that's not an opportunity that all of our students can take advantage of. So I think in whether it's, like the first year that we did the book, oh my God, now I'm blanking on the book that we read. Do you remember? Designing your life. Sorry. I remember designing your life. Designing your life. I got it. Sorry, I'm tired. Designing your life and like challenging yourself to think 5 years out and what your options are. Whether it's the third year, the second year of the aesthetics and values class, right? Like the curriculum forces you to think about life and society and values and expectations very differently than your standard, bio classes, and I have to take a humanities elective and this and that, right? And yes, you learn from all those classes, don't get me wrong. But the honors college faculty are built to push you outside your comfort zone, right? So you're learning about yourself while at the same time you're learning about education and about your future. So I think that foundation that I had combined with all of the experiences that I had in college, right? I was in student government and Greek life, campus life, different organizations, honor societies, all of those things compounded together really gave me this incredible life experience that a general commuter student that really doesn't, maybe because they're forced to, right? Like they have to work 40 hours a week and like they don't have the opportunity to go to all of these wonderful events and programming and support services. You have, like I said earlier, you have to take advantage. Right? And you're going to be tired. But there's only so many hours in a day, I recognize. But you have to, you really have to like look at what am I going to learn? How am I going to build my network? Let me build that all together so that I can really take advantage of my 4 years and maximize it so that my next phase, when you talk about competition, you're going to be on top compared to your peers across the country.
Woo. Thank you. Thank you for your answer and question. If no one else has a question, I do have a personal question of my own now that I have you all here. Sorry. But my personal question would be, at least for me, I usually struggle with like nervousness or like walking into a room, let's say different challenges, whether it would be like I'm the only female in the room, like you had experienced, or I'm like uncomfortable in like different environments because it's not something that I'm used to. Whether it be in my role in student government or in my previous jobs that I worked at. How have you all, because you all hold yourself with such like classiness and such ease, and like I honestly, like it inspires me, and I kind of want to know like what is your tip to like how you're able to kind of overcome, if you ever experience that like nervousness or that scared feeling. I don't know if that made sense. That was like a lot of words mixed together, but okay.
Every day.
Every day. Oh my God. So I'm not the only one. Okay.
Okay?
Phenomenal.
Every day. And I will say this for those of you who don't know me, I'm actually a combination of an old soul and an introvert. I am not the extrovert, super social, did not have the opportunity to be a Greek and to come, and it's not about the Greeks, but student leadership, student government, any of those associations that require you as a young adult to push those boundaries, that was not my story. And I, of course, have had the opportunity now to be more reflective on that, and I am very much more comfortable reading 5 books over a weekend than going to 5 different events. I have become the reluctant leader, if you will, to say, okay, this is a space that I need to be in, but if I'm going to be there, I make it a point of, 1, adding value, as certainly they're defined by the venue or by myself, right? I don't speak extemporaneously about just anything. So sometimes, even my mentors and, my folks who I think are supportive of me, they're like, you were very quiet. And I'm like, I was listening. And that's an okay space for me to be in. With respect to nerves, whether it's today, tomorrow, Friday, with the Board of Trustees, next week with the Board of Governors, 2 months from now, when we're bringing in strategic partners, right? We put on a game face. We are ready, right? So practice, and then more practice. The best thing that I've been able to do for nerves is be overly prepared. That's how I manage my own internal
Peace.
psych. Yeah, I psych myself out with like, no, okay, I'm ready. If I might prepare for 20 questions knowing I'm only going to get 2, but I'm ready.
Perfect. Yeah, because I tend to overthink. If you know me, I'm an extreme overthinker. Michelle knows. I'm like, Michelle, are you sure? Michelle, I'm okay? Am I all right? It's fine. She's like, you're fine, Alex. You're good. So I thank people like Michelle for giving me peace. And thank you for giving peace now, knowing that I'm not the only one that, is overthinking or like try to know what I'm getting myself into.
So, and also give yourself comfort that it's not just about nerves. It's that you're taking your position and your authority with responsibility. So you take it serious. I joke because I do a lot of self-deprecating humor because that's how I manage situations. But I take my job very seriously. And so that is why you overthink, right? You analyze and you over-prepare. There's nothing, to me, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, and in addition to everything she said, then just do it scared, because you got to do it, right?
That's true.
You just got to do it. You got to show up, and you got to do it. And I'll just say, just on a personal level, I've gotten so much exercise in asserting myself, right, which is not a natural characteristic for me, but I have to assert myself to come into spaces where I'm sometimes not welcomed, and I'll just be transparent with that. When I was, navigating even UM, which is a big, beautiful school, but it was just big, it was overwhelming, and there were very few black students at the time that I went there. So if I came into a room, I'd have to insert myself into a conversation. Nobody was saying, come on over and chat, And so just getting used to having to assert myself, and at the same time, calm the conditions or the fears of others for whoever they thought I might be when I came into the room, has kind of just added to the strength of it. But to Dr. Behar's point, every day, whenever you get a microphone in your hand, you have the nervousness, within. But be prepared. Know your business, and know that you're invited to the room because you have value. You're invited to the space, or you've been asked to come to that place because you have something to offer. So it really is yourself, making yourself over anxious, right? And then knowing that you have colleagues that really do have your back. That's real, okay? Just got to know that they're in the room and that you have people that are there in support of you, and be self-aware, and then be receptive to feedback, because, at the end of this day, you may have something to say, maybe you kept your legs crossed too long, whatever that feedback is. We welcome that, and are not afraid to receive feedback. But yes, we are all nervous because you want to give and bring your best self, right, always, but not to the place that it debilitates you, because fear is debilitating. And you want to make sure that you identify that, call it out, and be able to, walk in your own strength.
Thank you so
And
much.
I will say, Alex, if I can add, on average, when you see anyone in power and you're like, man, they're so confident, I want to be like them, right? 9 out of 10 times, that person's not really confident. Okay, like inside.
Inside.
I always find it funny when, students or my team, they're like, you speak so well, you have it all together, like you're so confident. And I'm like, I'm dying inside. Please don't get it twisted. As, even though, yes, like out to the open, to people that know me, they're like, Brenny, you've been involved like in so many things your whole life. Like you've been president of this and that and chair of this and that. And I'm like, no, I have terrible social anxiety. Like after a speaking engagement or a large event, I literally have to go into my room and just be by myself for 2 hours, because I have to recharge my batteries, right? So don't let those perceptions of people overburden your thoughts to be like, I'm never gonna be like them. No, everyone has their challenges out there, so don't let that kind of discredit you or disvalue you, because everybody has those fears. They might be different levels, right? One anecdote that I'll share quickly, because I know we're running out of time, when I worked for President Rosenberg and he had promoted me to AVP of Institutional Relations, one of my responsibilities was to be the liaison to the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, right? So this is a very corporate environment. It's heavy male-dominated. The women that are involved are all CEOs, very intimidating people. And I'm going in and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to build partnerships in my 30s with these people that run Miami. Okay, this is gonna go super well. And I vividly remember until this day, the first, networking luncheon that I walked into, I was visibly sweating. I was so uncomfortable. But to Dr. Behar's point, practice is important. That first one, I thought I tanked. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. This went terribly, but psych yourself out, right? Everyone, I just forced myself to talk to people. I hate small talk, but you force yourself, right? And you slowly start navigating what works for you and your personal fears and anxieties and challenges. And that to people externally seems like confidence, but really you're just managing yourself to make sure that you are exhibiting, your knowledge and your experience in the right way. And having known you since you were a freshman, you have done that, Alex, so you're fine. You're on the right track.
Thank you. That means so much to me. You have no idea. I'm getting emotional. That's not. God knows how much I needed that little piece from you all. I'm actually getting emotional. Wow, I don't know what day it is. Sorry, I was sorry, this is not like me. But thank you all for that little piece. I'm literally gonna be taking that with me. That literally meant a lot to me. But before we say goodbye, I do want to have a little moment to say really quick. If you all want to say any final remarks, if you want to say a little piece, another quick advice if you didn't mention it already, if you would like before we say goodbye. I know you all are very busy, but we'll take anything we can get here, So whatever you would like to say.
I'll jump in here. It was one of the questions that didn't get asked, and before we started, I know this is a very busy time of the semester, and we committed to Alex to returning, to doing different formats, and sometimes this chair over here nicer chair over here is like the great chasm that could be, right? And maybe it is about sitting on the floor cross-legged or around a table, breaking bread, right? To really, really kind of unpack some of the issues, not that I think, but maybe, I'm good with, like, I'll answer questions. I'm one of those people, I'm like, just go ahead, ask a question. If I don't have an answer, I'm very comfortable saying I don't have an answer. But one of the things I will leave you with that I think I have spoken about before is mentorship. Because a lot of people ask me, who's the great mentor in your life, right? It's that time of year, and right, so the great pumpkin Charlie Brown comes to mind, but because there isn't one, right? So the way that what has worked for me, which, by the way, you don't want to be me, you want to do you. So you need to do you and figure out what's going to work for you along your path, along your long and winding road or short, straight arrow road, whatever path that is. I have taken like an a la carte approach. I'm definitely a foodie, so I will say that I take snippets of some of our students I would consider a mentor to me because I learn from them. Professional mentors, there are mentors that I have from my professional capacity in academic affairs. Different mentors when I kind of put on that student affairs hat and I need to focus on a particular area or a particular topic, or in politics, or in the faculty in general, or personally, right? Because when I was asked a few years ago, as you plan out your career path, who do you want to be like? And I was like, well, there isn't one person, because then that means, that there just wasn't one person. I was like, I want a little bit of her experience, a little bit of his experience, a little bit of what he's done, a little bit of what she's done, kind of put a package together that makes sense for me. And I have probably 5, not 50, but probably 5 mentors who I can call, text, or email, any day of the week, any week of the month, and they will respond on different areas and different topics, and are very approachable, and we have very good relationships. And I've cultivated those. They're very organic. I've never had a mentor assigned to me, except for one, and that was in an area that I had no significant history with. So one of the things that I think is really important, and again, in an opportunity that you can manage and can be managed, is to put yourself into an area that you're unfamiliar with. So in one program here at FIU, which I'm very proud of, was when I was part of the leadership program, ELAP, which I am now, right, helping to spearhead at this university for people seeking management responsibilities at the university. I actually took on a mentor on the other side, that's very ominous, in the business and finance side of the university, because it was the only thing that I hadn't really been exposed to, having grown up on the academic side of the university professionally. So I wanted to gain that opportunity to shadow somebody whose life didn't look like mine from a day-to-day 9-to-5 business. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the business and finance side of the university that I think has helped me to this day.
Awesome. And I would say allow yourself to approach people like Dr. Behar, Dr. Garcia, because sometimes even sitting in this room, you're thinking, oh my goodness, they're so untouchable, but they're not. And the leaders at this university are not. I'm not talking about the people down the street, I don't know. But this university, these people are accessible. And sometimes as a student, you feel like they're just not within your reach, and they are. And so reach out and take full advantage of the resources that you have. I think Brenny said it earlier. She was like a senior before she knew what FERPA was. Well, you don't have to have that excuse, right? You have everything. I've worked at 3 major universities, and none provide supports like this FIU does, not one. So take advantage of it. And then I want to also pull this little quick plug right here. If you haven't already done so, would you please do your belonging survey? Let me just get this out here.
There you go. Hey.
Your belonging survey. And to the point that Dr. Behar just made about meeting someone, I'm going to suggest that you meet some other people in a different culture to do things that you've not done before. That's another rich advantage that we have here at FIU. And so it's not that it's scripted, it's not that it's dictated, but how much richer we'll be, right, when we get to learn a little bit more about each other and really create the space that we all belong here. So it's been a privilege. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
The one thing I just want to expand on Dr. Behar's point about mentorship, and it touches also what EK shared, is especially for the students in the room and those that might be on webcasts that are, like new professionals, and this is Brenny's definition, not FIU's definition, but I do think there's a difference between mentorship and sponsorship, okay? Mentorship tends to be more passive. It's people giving you advice, it's people coaching you, it's people, kind of guiding you along your path. Sponsorship is somebody that's gonna bring you to the table, or to add a seat to the table, or to create a table for you, okay? It's action-oriented mentorship. Those are harder to find, but work hard to find that person. And it might change, right? It might change by project, it might change by your field, it might change by decade. Mentors, you can have mentors for life, for profession, for volunteerism. You can have 20 mentors, right? Because people define it very broadly. Sponsorship is very difficult. Find that sponsor at some point in your life, especially when you're starting out in your career, because it's gonna make all the difference in advocating for you, advocating for your passions, advocating for your teams. Because especially when you're starting out, an organization can become overwhelming, right? You don't know how to navigate it. Those sponsorships are gonna take you to the next step to make sure that you're in the right rooms and that you know how to find your voice and that it teaches you how to make an impact in your organization. So I just encourage you to find those two different types of people in your lives.
Thank you. So let's take one more moment to give a round of applause to our beautiful panelists. I honestly cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your schedules to come join us. I really appreciate it. I know everyone here and everyone on the live cast appreciates it as well. And I am looking forward to having you all come some other time and kind of fostering a different type of environment. Maybe we do the crisscross applesauce. We don't know. Thank you for that, inspiration. Yeah, I'll let you know. Don't even worry. But before we go, we do have a little thank you, like little FIU swag bag for you all. I know I'm sure you all have enough FIU gear, but personally, I don't think you can have enough FIU stuff. So I do have that for a moment. But thank you again for spending your time here. And thank you, everyone, that took time your day as well. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to having more of these conversations, these events. And hopefully I will see you in the next one as well. So thank you and have a good rest of your day.